Welcome to the roller coaster live on Facebook. It's Tuesday and I have with me Holly. How's it going, Holly?
It's going well, thanks.
So you said something to me yesterday in a text that sort of got me thinking, and that sort of led into our whole conversation that we're going to be having today.
Yeah.
Is you said we're at the halfway mark of the year.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, in some ways, I think it's gone by so fast. And in other ways, it's like, look how much has gone on.
Right, exactly.
So what's your take on sort of the midlife point in the year?
Well, the reason why I was reflecting on it was because the beginning of the year was not very good for me. We placed my mom, who's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. We finally made the decision to put her into assisted living. So at the very tail end of 2022, it was mid-December, we placed her in assisted living. So I would say easily for the first 3 months, I was pretty consumed with, her being, adapting to the assisted living. And then we had to pack up her place and get it ready for sale, which was a big undertaking. You don't realize how much stuff accumulates and how emotional it actually is, because you're coming across a lot of sentimental things. And it was a weird kind of experience because my mother's not, dead, but it felt like, my mother's not the same woman as if she was. So it was a very emotional, draining experience. But honestly, months leading up to it, I would say like October, I was doing pretty good. But then I hit the wall when we started looking for assisted living programs. And I started losing a lot of sleep. Like my bandwidth was becoming less and less and less because I just wasn't getting sleep. It's very unnerving to have her living alone in where she was living. My father is deceased for many, many years, and she was a very independent woman up until about, I would say, she's 88 now. I'll give her till 86. Like it went fast and furious, like, diagnosis, and then she went off the cliff very quickly. So it became very unnerving for my sisters and I. And I really lost a lot of sleep. So with that being said, it wasn't great. January, I would say solidly through the mid-March, it was, I was doing what I needed to get done work-wise. Work was a salvation because it got me out of my own world as far as working with my clients and running my groups. But anything else like content development was such a struggle because my focus was so poor from the lack of sleep and just from being consumed by this huge curveball that had been thrown our way. And I really didn't find my grounding until I would say like mid-March. I got my ass back into therapy. I did, because I was like, whoa, and I've talked about this, I think, before. I am a recovering control freak. That doesn't bode very well for Alzheimer's, a mother with Alzheimer's. And then on top of it, my mother-in-law was recently widowed and she has Parkinson's and then broke her back.
Oh boy.
So it was like a shit storm, like a sandwich of, both. And it's, in both my scenarios, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. So like, it's learning to cope with this. So that's when I said I have to get back into therapy. And I was going to go the coach route, but I was like, you know what? I'm realizing a lot of family stuff was rising to the surface. So I kind of wanted to really peel back some layers. So I decided to go the therapy route. And that helped hugely, and still is. It still is. But that, like I said, I am just getting my head above water now. So I'm ready to dig back in, and though I'm really excited that summer is here, I need to make up for some lost time, say the least.
I think I'm on the polar opposite to you.
Yeah.
Because I started off the year like really strong. I was excited. I was turning 50 in May. I had a lot going on, and there's all these, I was making a lot of movement forward. I got my my free program, the 3 steps to go from hot mess to badass. I got that done. I was really proud of that, and I was making some great connections.
Yeah.
And then, if we have the sound effect for the screeching record, and it's just kind of like, that's when the universe steps in and goes, oh, hang on a second. Yeah. And now I'm dealing with this health challenge.
Yeah.
And it was a curveball. I still don't have any answers, although it's becoming more and more obvious what, sort of what it is and what I'm going to be dealing with. But it wasn't expected. And I think the thing that we forget to do in these situations is just to take the time to honor what you said before about the emotional bandwidth that it takes.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things that I've sort of taken from this so far, is that it's okay to step back. It's okay to say, I'm not
Necessary.
okay. And that's one of the hardest things I've had to learn how to do in the last couple of weeks, is say, no, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And actually find the words to articulate why I'm not okay. And that is
Most importantly,
freaking hard.
Well,
That is hard.
although I would think for someone like you who's pretty insightful, it might come a little bit easier than most. But what you're talking about, that emotional granularity, is so vital, because if you're not specific as to what you're experiencing, it's very hard to resolve it and be accurate or strategic in going about, putting in the proper, supports that you might need. So that's key. That's key. Yeah. And you'll have to step back in order to do that, because if you're still pushing ahead, how can you be self-aware enough to know what you're really experiencing? And that's really goes back to how we originally met. That first podcast that we spoke about, leaning into the struggle, but yet still moving forward powerfully. And I don't believe you can move forward powerfully unless you lean into the struggle. And the truth is, in midlife, there's a whole lot of it all at once. There's a lot. I'm not saying that in earlier decades we're not, struggling with anything. It just is so much change happening at once. And you're saying something that's really important, the physical component, that played a big component to why I was struggling so much with my mom's situation and my mother-in-law situation. I'm postmenopausal. I no longer have the progesterone or the estrogen to help combat anxiety or depression. Those hormones are in place and they help you fight those things. I don't have that as a safety mechanism anymore, as a defense mechanism, I should say. So it really addled me, and I kept on saying, like, what the fuck, Holly, you can do this. You've dealt with harder things. And I just was like, I kept on getting in my way, and I kept on getting in my way. And that's when I realized I got to get some help here, because I can't do this alone. I can't get out of my own way. I need another insight here. And that's when I, reached out and I, started to go back to therapy, because I realized, this is a different ballpark now. I am not the same person I was. And you know what? Best thing that ever happened to me, Lucy, because I'll be honest with you, I am exhausted. I don't want to be a control freak anymore. I don't. I'm done. I don't want to live the second half of my life always trying to prepare for the shoe to drop. I'm not interested. I'm not interested. It's, worry is there for a reason if we can be proactive, but once we're proactive, that's it. You can't just get ahead of it. Like, shit's going to happen. And that's what happens in midlife, these curveballs.
And that, the hormonal mess that comes in midlife, I think what they don't, or what's not touched upon and what's not shared enough, is how crazy that can truly be.
Yep.
Because in the past week, I have experienced so many, like, this has been the wildest ride I've been on in the last couple of weeks, just trying to get right in my own headspace and work through, because before I can talk about something to somebody, I have to get it straight in my own head.
Sure.
I sort of have to talk myself through understanding and rationalizing and categorizing things before I can even think of dealing with somebody.
Yeah.
But within the context of doing that, you can have some crazy ass thoughts. You can go from one extreme to another. And I think that's that tiny portion of telling women that your mind can go to some really crazy places in a short span of time.
Yeah.
Just because of your hormones. Now, I am taking hormone replacement. They're going to change what type of hormones I'm having in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully that's going to be serving me better.
Yeah.
But even being on those hormones, I still struggle with those things, the anxiety, the depression, the worry, the uncertainty, all of those things. And I think that's what midlife women aren't told enough, is that shit that comes up that you're dealing with is because your hormones are changing. It's not because you're less capable of dealing with it, because I mean, God knows, as women, we've dealt with some very challenging things. So not only do you have this hormone mess, we're caught in this perfect storm because all of these other things can change. We're sort of known as that sandwich generation, where, as you've clearly shared, you're dealing with aging parents.
Yeah.
You're still supporting your children. You have your own life, your own business, your own things going on. So we have it coming at us from all sides. And I'm not trying to negate what any man is going through. We just have the extra layer of not having the same hormone balance that we've had the luxury of having for the rest of our
No, and you
lives.
know what the sad thing is, Lucy, is that I don't even think most women really even realize that that can be contributing to what's going on, because it's not talked about. We're not educated about it when we go to the gynecologist or to the doctor. How are you feeling emotion? It's not talked about until just recently. So I mean, I've been very fortunate. My menopause outside of, and perimenopause, outside of some extreme hot flashes and extreme night sweats, it wasn't awful for me. Like I said, I found the postmenopausal because my way of coping wasn't working for me anymore. But there are some women who I have spoken to, and they genuinely feel like they're going out of their minds. Like it's a really, really difficult challenge for some women. And it runs the gamut,
I was going to say, I'm in that, I'm going to check that box.
This, right?
I'm going
to, but no one is given the heads up about it. And so a lot of the times when women come to me, and they share with me what they believe the issues are, they're not even considering the health component. They're just thinking that there's something wrong with them, that there's something wrong within their relationships, that there's something wrong within their career, that they're not enjoying. They're not even considering the physical component that might be going on that's contributing to all of this. That's the really unfortunate part. And I'm not saying that is all of it, because certainly the other stuff can, be a heavy burden on people. It's a time in our life where, we are often questioning our careers, or maybe want to ramp up our careers, or want to retire, change our careers. We are sometimes in a situation where we're regrouping with our partners after raising our children, and they're empty nesting, and we're not sure if we want to be with them, or we have to learn more about them again. So we're questioning our relationships. And then there's our own selves, with, where am I in all this? Who am I in all this? So those are really valid stuff. But then you mix in the hormonal changes.
Yeah.
And I think
because women don't know that the crazy thoughts, the anxiety, the depression, because they don't know that that is a contributing factor with their hormones.
Yep.
They don't bring it up with their doctors.
Yep.
And, I think I only know what I know is from the conversations that I've had through this podcast, through the the different guests I've had on this show. Each guest I learn from, and I gain more experience and wisdom, and you can piece all these pieces of the puzzle together and you have a better understanding. But if it weren't for some of these conversations and these connections, I would have no clue.
Same here.
I would have no clue. And the problem is that when you don't know why the problem exists, it can feel indefinite. Like this is going to be
hopeless.
forever.
You're feeling hopeless.
It's that lack of hope.
Yes.
But once you understand, once you understand, okay, wait a second, I'm feeling this way, I'm thinking this way, I'm acting this way because of this. For me, it just helps me better categorize and place my thoughts. And it's because you can say to yourself, okay, this is just a bad hour. This is just a bad day. Right. I need to remove myself. I need to do something to center and regroup.
Yep.
But myself before that, is why I hit rock bottom, is
Yeah, I hear
because
you.
I did not know that those crazy ass thoughts, all
Yeah,
those questions, that uncertainty, I
we're
had no
valid.
clue
We're
that had to do
valid.
with my
Yeah,
hormones.
yeah,
And that's why I fell so low.
yep. It's a very scary place to be, especially after you come from living a life of, not everyone's raising family, but, this productivity, this place of accomplishment, this place of going and doing and just, following that roadmap. And then all of a sudden, like you said, it's like a screeching halt, to like, well, no, what happened to me? Where am I? Who am I? And, like you want to snap out of it, like, slap yourself silly. Like, why can't I? And that's, and we try. And like you said, I remember experiencing it and I'm like, I would, I'm plugging in all the tools, all the techniques. This is what I do for a living. And then, of course, to make it worse and add insult to injury, I'm like, Holly, you should know better. You're a coach. Used to be a psychotherapist. What is wrong? So then I'm beating myself up, feeling this way. Finally, I'm like, this is bullshit. I cut and bleed. And, like I really felt like the universe was saying to me, get off, take off your super cape, get off this high
Yeah.
pedestal and join the crowd. Because this, and I've not that, listen, I've experienced many highs and lows in my life, but this one was a rattling like no other. And I do believe it was based on what I was throwing at myself. It absolutely sucks with my mother and Alzheimer's, my mother-in-law. I got to be honest with you, empty nesting. I love the time that it's given me. However, learning how to all of a sudden let go for a control freak isn't necessarily an easy thing, knowing I can't kiss my kids' boo-boos and they have to figure it out on their own. Like I said, I was thrown into the freaking deep end of, Holly, sorry, my friend, you don't have control. But it was the best thing that happened to me. But did it rattle the shit out of me? For months, for months. It couldn't get out from underneath it. And it was a scary place to be, thinking like, am I always going to feel this way? And is it always going to feel this way? And when I was talking to myself through it, Holly, you've been, you ebb and you flow, you ebb and you flow. I'm like, oh yeah, but this one's really feeling for a long time. I'm not sure I'm going to come out on the other side of it this time. You start to being like, this is a long one. And, I say this to my clients, like we joke, when we're in a great place, we never say, God damn it, when is this good mood going to end? When is this high going to end? We're only, when we're miserable, we're like, oh, I can't stand this anymore. I feel like I'm on fire. And we don't give ourselves that grace. We just never, because everything is a high and a low. It's just the inevitability of the human condition. And I think we talked about it last week. Like even athletes have off season, you're going to have off seasons. You're going to feel it. So when you're feeling good, feel it, run it, ride it, feel good, and just be prepared. You have to be more well equipped. And that's a large part of my work, Lucy. We talk about that empowered energetic state. This is what it's all about. Because if we don't create an empowered energetic state, we're not going to be able to handle the curveballs. I want to create an empowered energetic state for women so they could just fly. But at the same time, I want them to know that they need to create an empowered energetic state to bridge the gap when they're feeling the lows. And those are the things that we really get into when we deal with, the 6 influences on our energy and what we need to tap into so that when physically we're feeling it big time, what are we going to lean into on the other influences to help us move through this? And then what do we need to do on the physical end to empower ourselves and advocate for ourselves? So that's a lot. That's exactly what my whole program is rooted in, because it's going to come. The curveballs are going to come.
They're going to come 100%. There's nothing. You said you were a recovering control freak.
Yes.
You couldn't have planned your way out of everything you dealt with.
Nope.
It
I
was
thought
going
I
to come.
could. I did it for a long time, Lucy. And it did not
That didn't work out too well.
No, it didn't work out so well. No.
But that's why, I mean, for me, it's having those sacred things in your day. And mine is always how I start the day. It's always, my journaling. I've been doing, since we've had nice weather, my meditation, I've been changing a bit, where it's just like, I'm just outside, just appreciating, being present and just being that way. And it's being sort of more aware
Yep.
of the thoughts, and the thoughts that you keep thinking that are not doing you any good.
Yep.
And that's the thing that I've been trying to implement over, the last couple of weeks. When I start feeling my mind being pulled in the wrong direction, I center myself by saying, I'm safe.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that's a beautiful thing to remind yourself with. But you're right, it's a holistic approach. It really is. It's not one thing that's going to be the silver bullet or, the magic pill. It's really understanding it's all the things we do that create this cumulative way of being able to age powerfully. And again, that's a part of this, word that I use, creating this empowered energetic state. It's taking the time for R&R. It's taking the time to connect to those people who are near and dear to you. It's taking the time for yourself to take a deep breath. It is also plugging into our careers and what makes us feel good and, empowered and using our voice. It's a number of things. It's not just one thing. And I've said this before, we've all been fooled to believe that if we can secure certain aspects in our life, we'll, alas, be happy. No. You can be fantastic and thriving in your career and still feel like shit because the other components of your life, whether it be your relationships, whether it be your health, whether it be, your environment, whatever it might be, is suffering, you're still not feeling great and fulfilled. And that's why, you hear sometimes like these stories of people, these celebrities who like suddenly you hear, killed themselves or, horrible stories. And you're like, how could they? Because even though all this was going on in their lives, because it's not just about that. It's about our, happiness is an inside job, our emotional well-being. What is our mind driving us to do? Are we succeeding on the outside because we're driven in a very dysfunctional way? What's going on? And then emotionally, we're not well because then we're on that treadmill of needing to accomplish, not for ourselves, but for everything else. So it's that emotional component is huge, huge.
And it's, it, for me, it also comes down to understanding that it's more than the labels that we represent ourselves as, and it's more than the things that are quantified and measured.
Yes. Yes.
Because so much in our society is judging people on what they've accomplished, how much money they have in the bank, how many likes they have, how many followers they have.
That's true. Dopamine hit. It's that dopamine hit.
Those are the things that, people seem to be judged by. And they're, in all of it, people have forgotten that it's really more about, like you said, what goes on inside, that spiritual side of ourselves. And spirituality, it has nothing to do with religion and for where I'm coming from. It's just who you are and how you connect to yourself, your higher self, and consciousness as a whole. But that's not what our society lends itself to.
No, it does not. It's a sad, and that's why we have a lot of dysfunction. It's funny. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but part of my signature program, I do an assessment. And I call it the Live to Thrive assessment, but it's the assessment I actually use is called the Energy Leadership Index. So you probably have heard of other personality tests like Myers-Briggs, DISC, the Enneagram, and those are wonderful, but they tell you that you're like A, B, or C type of person. The ELI, and you can look it up, it's the Energy Leadership Assessment, is more of an attitudinally based assessment. So it's just a fingerprint, a snapshot at this moment in time of how you're perceiving the world and your experience at this moment. But as you move forward and expand and go through coaching, you can increase it exponentially. So you're not kind of locked in a box. My point in being in this is that what happens is after you take this assessment, you get your average resonating level of what energy, like you're kind of, mostly existing at. And it goes from anywhere from 1 to 6. And most people score under 2.5. So a lot of my clients, when they take the test and they see 2.8, 3.0, they're like, and they start to analyze it. I'm like, don't overthink this. And I'm like, universally, the average resonating level is a 2.5 because most people are not overly happy in most aspects of their life or struggling. It's the norm. It's not, and so what is that saying? What is that saying about the state of where most of us are existing? It's not great. It's not great because we have ignored a huge component of well-being. And we've only really focused on the productivity and the measurements of success, whether that be money or fame, or popularity and all those things. So that's where it's not surprising. It's not, and it's no fault of anybody's.
No,
it's how we've been
it's
socialized.
how it, and I think ultimately, anytime we're measuring ourselves, what comes up immediately beside that is I am not enough.
You bet.
And that is sort of, from where I can see, I am not enough is a plague in society today, because it demoralizes anybody that feels that they're sort of brushing up against that. And I'm gonna wager, I'm gonna say 90% of people in some area of their life are going to feel that they're not enough, because there's this judgment, this measurement, this proving yourself. There's always this need to be something more, to be something greater, to be something bigger.
Yep.
And
Agreed.
it's funny, it was something I was journaling about this morning. It's, why do we do that? Why am I not just okay just being exactly where I am? Because that's my point in my journey. My journey is that Lucy is exactly here today.
Yeah.
I don't know where Lucy's going to be tomorrow, but this is where Lucy is today. And I have to be good and happy with where Lucy is today. It doesn't mean that I don't want to strive for more, but it's that finding that grounding in, I guess it comes down to gratitude for the abundance that you have in the moment.
Yeah, and I think also it's not even that, like, I mean, some of what got me, part of what got me out of, I can't say, that real bad low that I had, was the awareness that there's an opportunity in this situation. There is an opportunity for some major growth here, Holly, because that's what often happens. Like, no one wishes ill will on anyone, but unfortunately it's in the most painful experiences where we learn and grow.
That's where we grow the most.
It's the truth, and no one wants to have that, but that's where the good stuff really happens. And that's why I'm such a firm believer that midlife is the most powerful time in our lives, because there is so much mishmagog that's going on, or angst, however you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. But how much wiser are we? How much more do we know ourselves? How much more do we give less of a shit what other people think? How much more are we just done with feeling less than? So when you combine the angst with this fed upness, it's a powerful place to be. But unlike, because you could have told me probably, you could have hit me over the head hundreds of times when I was in my 30s, even my early 40s. Holly, you're a control freak. You're a control freak. And I would have rationalized that to death, how it's serving me and how it's serving me. Well, not so much anymore, because when you're young, you haven't had the opportunity to put your hand over the stove, get it burnt again, get it burnt again, get it burnt again, and realize, oh, they're right about this. This isn't working for me. It takes that, life experience tucked under our belt to realize, okay,
I've learned that lesson finally.
Let's get busy here,
Yeah.
So that's why I do think really midlife is the most powerful time in our lives, because of that combination coming together, that catalyst. It's very powerful, very powerful. It's uncomfortable as all hell. I'm not gonna lie, it's very uncomfortable, but it's also quite liberating at the same time. It's a weird polarity.
And there is a lot of power in when you're in those situations of challenge, and it's something that I've done with myself, looking at where I am, is that I don't have all the answers as to why this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
But what I have learned multiple times throughout my life is that at some point I'll be able to look back, I'll be able to connect the dots and go, that's why it happened.
Yeah.
This is what I learned from it, and this is how I grew from it.
Yeah.
But it really sucks when you're going through shit and somebody says, oh, look on the bright side. That's when you just want to throat punch them.
That I don't, that
But
toxic positivity
it's
doesn't work well for me. I'm
no,
not a fan of it.
you've talked about
Because
toxic positivity.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not a fan of that. The whole, it could be worse. Yeah, it can always be
it
worse.
could be worse. Yeah,
It
sure could.
always could be worse.
But
But let's talk real. How are you really feeling? You don't feel good. That's your experience. So
Yep.
let's be honest so that we can then resolve it. We can start dealing with it. Because if we try to sugarcoat it or whack-a-mole it down, it's going to pop right back up
It
and
will
bite you
always find a way.
viciously.
Yeah.
It is.
And that's where I'm sort of finding my balance point with what I'm dealing with is just, yes, it sucks. Yes, I'm going to get through it. And at some point, I will be able to look back and say, okay, this is what happened.
Yeah.
And this is how I grew from it. And
Yep.
it's almost like you're sort of looking forward to being able to learn from it. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, 100% it makes sense. One of my, like a part of my mantras, which we didn't never, is, I'm not done yet. I will determine the level of fulfillment in my life, not my age, my level of participation in my life. And I'm not settling for status quo until my dying day. So even though I'm feeling like shit, I'm not going to settle for this. This is not this is not going to define me. This is my end point. And that's what I would say to myself. Okay, Holly, this sucks. This really sucks. You're not feeling it. You're not feeling good. It's been a long time you're feeling this way, but you're not settling for this. You're gonna keep digging as you will, Lucy. Keep talking to your doctors, speaking to the people that you need to, trying out different things, because unfortunately it takes time to, test road these things to find out what is the best thing for you. I'm not settling for status quo. And that for me is probably the only thing that got me through it all, was that I could say at the end of the day, when I put my head on the pillow, was that I wasn't settling. I wasn't succumbing to it. I felt scared, very scared, but I said, this can't be my final destination. Like, this is not going to be my last hurrah. So, and that's it. It's just always saying that. And every curveball that comes your way, it's saying, okay, I'm not settling for status quo. I will find the joy and the levity in this eventually, which is very hard when you see your mother deteriorating. How do you find joy in that? And it's in simple moments, in a simple second where I can find her laughing, and we can find a joke that I hear that old mom. And I'll lock into that on my drive home, and I'll be like, oh my God, it only lasted like for a minute or two, but that was that old feeling, far and few between. So what am I going it's that, it's choosing to do that. But it takes a lot of work, support, and intentionality around that. It really does. And then some days it just blows. It just blows.
And I think, as we sort of wrap up here, I think that's the important thing, is that some days are going to suck, and you have to be okay with them sucking, just knowing it's the day, and being okay in that moment.
Yeah.
Just being okay with the way things are. They're not perfect. It never is.
No, I joke. I always say, like, perfectly imperfect, and that's kind of the theme of my life, perfectly imperfect. And it's my way of being, it's my perfect, but it's certainly not perfect, and it won't be. And for anyone to expect it to be, then they're robbing themselves of greater joy and happiness. And that's what I learned by, being a control freak. I was robbing myself of so much time of being in that space. And I don't want to do that for the next half of my life. I just don't. So I'm working really hard. It's not easy, but I'm working.
No, it's not, because sure, it's midlife is the best time of our life, but we've also built up a few good, bad habits.
Well, and like we talked about last week, that
taken me 50 years to develop this.
They go, and I'm like, nope, we're not going there, Holly. We're not going there today. We're going here. And sometimes I'm like, you're going there. You're just going there. Yeah. But I try to catch myself before falling.
That's it. Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you would like to connect with Holly and find more about her signature programs and how she can help you on your midlife journey, make sure you check out the show notes. I'm going to have her links in there. She's also got some great quizzes to help you acquaint yourself with some of her fantastic tools. Also check out my link. That's where you can find my audio course, 3 Steps to Go from Hot Mess to Badass and Start Rocking Midlife. And if you want to catch all episodes of the Roller Coaster of Midlife, you can find them on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and all other podcast platforms. Now, we are not going to be here next week.
Yep.
Because
Right?
I'm going away to pick up my oldest is graduating from college, and we are bringing him back home.
Very exciting.
So I'm very excited for that. I haven't seen him in a few months, so that'll be nice. But then we'll get things going again. Probably, you know what? It's probably going to be early July, because by the time I get back, we're going to have Canada Day and then July 4th.
Oh yeah, we have July 4th.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be a couple of weeks, but we will be back here with more great conversations. And until next time, take care.
Take care. Bye, everybody.